When you're working with Selenium WebDriver, StaleElementReferenceException is one of the most annoying exceptions you run into. It's kind of hard to solve for other than to put a sleep in it. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I deal with it so I don't have to put a sleep in my code. We all know that putting a sleep is the last resort. You don't want to put sleep in your test because the more sleeps you put, when you have hundreds of tests, your automation, the entire suite, is going to take a long time. And I'm going to show you how to avoid that and how I deal with it. And if you have a different way of dealing with it, please put that in the comment. I'd love to learn. All right, so what I have here is I just created a simple HTML file that will actually cause this exception to happen. So I'm just going to open it just to show you. I'm going to copy the paths and I'm going to go to Chrome and just go to that file. It's just a local file, right? So I have these two buttons. Let's say in my test, my steps are I click the first button, then something happens, and I click on the second button. So I click on the first button, the next button disappears and it shows up. So in my automation, I'm trying to click on the second button and then the exception actually happens. So let's write that code. I have a starter code ready, right? Just the basics like we always do. Just import what we need, create a Chrome. I'm doing this in Chrome and just go to that location. Okay, this code will be available to you. I'll put the link in the description if you just want to reproduce this issue. So what do you normally do? Normally you would want to click on this one. So you're going to find the ID for that or some kind of locator for it. In this case, we have an ID, my button 1, right? So I'm going to say button 1 is going to be driver.find element by ID, and that is the ID. And we're going to do the second button, button 2. That also has an ID and is called button 2. Okay, so you can look at what the HTML is. It's really simple. It's basically when button 1 gets clicked, this function gets called, and this function just removes the element from the DOM and attaches it again. So I'm trying to simulate a real state element exception happening. A state element exception happens when the element is actually not attached. It can be a lot of reasons that can happen, like an AJAX call or something. There's a lot of reasons that can cause the element to be detached. So you have to go get it again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the two elements. Let's just assume this is our workflow, and we just want to click on that. Right, so I'm going to say button 1 dot click, then I want to do button 2 dot click. Right, this is our flow, this is our test. And later on you can do driver dot quit if you want to, but let's just leave that for now. Okay, so now we're going to try to run this. I have a virtual environment activated and I have Selenium installed, so all we have to do is run it. I can put a breakpoint right here just to see the page. Since it's Chrome, it's going to close right away. So I'm just going to put a breakpoint. So I'm going to do Python handle StaleElementReferenceException, right? So we're going to run this and we hit the breakpoint. So you see the page is loaded. So I'm going to hit continue. If you don't know how to use a breakpoint, I have a video on that. I can also link in the description. There you go. When I hit continue, we got that StaleElementReferenceException. That's the exception we got. In fact, I'm going to remove the breakpoint so you can see it clearly. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to run it. It is super fast, right? Opens the browser, bam, it failed right away. So normally the solution would be like the common, you'd be tempted to solve it this way. You would put a sleep here, right? You can say import time.sleep. I'm doing the inline importing because I'm not going to keep it. So I'm going to put a sleep right there. And I'm going to run the test again, and it should not be no problem, right? There you go, success. I can print pass, but we can see that not that I missed the P, and it turned out to be a whole different word. I did not expect that. So we can see this. If I put a sleep in there, it works fine. But you don't want to put a sleep in your automation unless that's your last resort. There are situations where you can't solve it in any other way and you put a sleep in there. The problem, if you have a habit of putting sleep, yeah, this test, one test, 2 seconds, who cares, right? But you have hundreds of tests. Usually that's what you're going to have. You're going to have hundreds of tests. Let's just say 100 tests. If you put 2 seconds sleep on 100 tests, all of a sudden you have 200 seconds of sleep. So your automation is slow by 200 seconds. You don't want to do that, right? That's a no-no unless you actually have to. You might be thinking, oh, I'm going to use implicit wait or explicit wait. it doesn't work. It doesn't help in this case. Normally that's the right thing to do, but in this state element exception, that's not going to help. So I'm going to show you that driver implicitly wait. I'm just going to use implicit wait. Let's just do 5 seconds implicit wait, right? So I remove that time so I can actually reproduce it. So I'm going to run it. Bam. I have a typo. Implicitly. Yep. There you go. Ready to go. It didn't help. We got a state element exception. So the solution, the way I'm implementing is I'm going to catch it, then sleep and try again. Because what happens is state element exception, it doesn't always happen. It all depends on your network speed, on the page and everything. It's very annoying because it's intermittent. The test will be running, one time it will pass, one time it will fail, one time it will pass, one time it will fail. I have this end-to-end checkout and ecom end-to-end checkout flow. It's so annoying. That's when I came up with this solution, is because sometimes it's fine, sometimes it happens, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a try and catch. I'm going to try to just go and do it. If the exception actually happens, then I will sleep, right? Because it's not going to happen all the time. My problem with sleeping is if you're going to sleep every single time, no matter what. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So the solution is pretty simple. We're going to put this whole thing into a try and catch block. So first I'm going to do the find element. You can leave it out there, but I can just say try finding the two elements. Okay. Then I'm going to do the button one click. Well, button one click, button two click, right? I'm not going to do the sleep anymore, so I can just totally get rid of it. So both of those are in a try block. Then I'm going to do except. Then if there happens to be an exception, then I'll come back to what kind of exception. Right now I'm just going to do generic except catch all, right? Then I'm going to do the sleep part. So in this case, I'm always going to have the time, so I'm going to import it above because I don't want to do the import in line. So I'm going to do time.sleep. Let's just say 2 seconds. We already know it works. Then we're going to do the second part, right? The what's going to fail is this part is what's going to fail. So I'm going to take this, repeat it, right? The good thing about this is that we're not going to sleep every time. We're only going to sleep if there is an exception. And now the problem here is the way I did it here, I'm catching all exceptions. I don't want that. Right? I don't want to try and catch everything. I want to catch that state element exception specifically, because if something else goes wrong, I want to know, right? I don't want to catch. I just want to catch that specific thing. So how do I do that? Then I'm going to import that exception. I'm just going to copy from my notes the import statement. There you go. I probably should put it be above the time. Actually, the standard libraries normally go up there. Not that it will make a difference, but it's just convention. Okay, so now that I imported it, I am going to catch it in the except block. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to catch it in the except block as E. I can put a note here. I can say print a, and I can say a state element exception happened retrying in 2 seconds, right? I can just print that. Now we can run the test and see what happens. We'll do this. The browser runs and pass, right? We did get that print statement. So it worked. It tried to do it. It got the exception. So it printed this, it waited 2 seconds, and it did it. So this way you avoid having to wait every single time. And I've been implementing this solution and it has been working for me. So I'd love to hear it if you have a different solution. So in the comment, please put if this helps, or if you have a better solution. I'd love to see your code snippet of what you did. All right, so if you like this content, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel. All I do is QA stuff. Just I like to teach people QA related things. Right now, I'm primarily focused on Python based automation. All right, on to the next one.